Well, hello everybody again, Steve here. Today I thought I'd talk to you about my new book that should be coming out shortly. My dear daughter Sue, or Susanna, she did the fantastic cover for the book in the last few days, and I'm very, very impressed with the rendition of the front cover. It's much, much better than I could have asked for. We seem to have an uncanny connection with each other, which is quite remarkable. The reason I say that, if you look at the picture of the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs Insights, you look on the front cover, what you notice right away is Joseph as Pharaoh. He's very striking. He's very striking looking. I suppose he's very good looking for as far as women are concerned, and he's very masculine, very strong. And also his demeanour is one of strength and character, like nobody messes with me kind of guy. It's very, very interesting because that's not the image most people have of Joseph if they just read their Bibles. Why is that? I think a lot of people thought Joseph was Mr. Nice Guy, nice to everybody, even his enemies, and forgiving his brothers for what they did to him. But that doesn't begin to tell the tale of Joseph. To know what it was really like concerning Joseph and his brethren, you need to read my up-and-coming new book, The Testament of the 12 Patriarchs Insights. You'll get a real thrill out of this book. This new book is really unique. By my estimate, it was written about, originally, 3,700 years ago by the 12 sons of Jacob, who became Israel. And what's amazing about the sons of Jacob is on their deathbeds, they all knew they're about to die. And they gave a message to their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and relatives. And they confessed the things that they had done wrong in their lives, including what quite a few of them did to poor Joseph when he was only 17 years old. Now I've heard some Bible scholars and others say that, Joseph is about the only character in the whole Bible of whom you could say he was perfect, he never did anything wrong. I would not agree. I think Joseph was a complete idiot when he was 17 years old. He was a cocky, arrogant, sassy 17-year-old telling off his very strong older brethren and boasting about he was a favourite and he was greater than they were because he had these dreams of grandeur. Pretty dumb thing to tell your brothers about dreams of grandeur. Nevertheless, he was only 17 years old. And if you haven't read the Bible, you probably do know the story of Joseph, how he was sold as a slave into Egypt by his brethren out of jealousy, and yet how God used it for good. And poor Joseph, he was not only sold as a slave against his will, but he also ended up down in Egypt. And it wasn't long before he was in the jail. And while he was in the house of Potiphar before that, he had Potiphar's wife trying to jump on him and get him. And thus you see in the front cover picture, who's the woman in the background, looking desirably at Joseph, but having a look in her eyes like she's not going to get him. That's Potiphar's wife. And I think Suzanne, my daughter's done a fantastic job with the expressions on their faces, the whole spirit of the front cover, because the last thing I wanted to do was make it some dry and boring religious cover. I wanted to make it interesting. And she says, well, if you want it to be interesting, make sure you've got a woman on the cover. Okay, stand up for the women. I agree. Yes. And I think that the picture's fantastic. Not only has it got Joseph dominant in the picture and a woman behind him, but it's also got the pyramids and the Sphinx, so that at a glance you can easily tell what the story is about. Nearly everybody knows the story of Joseph and Pharaoh and the incredible things. But I want you to please read my new book, The Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs, Insights. I have worked on this project. I found this original book from 3,700 years ago to be absolutely fantastic. It's very different. It's very rare that you hear 12 people confess the things they did wrong and how sorry they are for what they did to poor Joseph. And also to see Joseph as such a shining example of forgiveness. I cannot read the story of Joseph already in the Bible without crying. It's just so amazing and emotional. But you read it in the book of Joshua, or you read it in the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, and it's even stronger. It's even deeper. Amazing details put into these apocryphal books concerning the story of Joseph and his 12 brethren, and how God used the whole situation to put Joseph in a high position to rescue his whole family in the time of 7 years of famine. Think of that. We complain with 3 months of famine. Imagine 7 years of famine like they had in Egypt at that time. Well, if you liked the story of Joseph, as most people do in the Bible, then you need to read the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, because it gives a lot more details. And I'd also say get also my book Joshua Insights, which talks a lot about Joseph as well, to get a much bigger picture, much more well-rounded picture of the life of Joseph and his 11 brethren. And what was life back then for their father Jacob, who became Israel? Talks a lot about him as well in these books, and the past, and what it was like growing up in a family where Jacob had 4 wives and 13 children between the 4 wives. It's a remarkable story. It really is unique. What I find absolutely fantastic in the story is how that 12 brethren, for the most part, they stuck together through thick and thin. They were the best of friends with each other, except that episode with Joseph when he was 17. But like I said, I think in many ways he deserved it, the way he was treated, because of how sassy he was, and how critical he was, and how arrogant he was. Of course, that was rough treatment for a 17-year-old, I know. But anyway, it was part of God's plan to save the whole nation of Jacob's budding nation of Israel. And not only that, saved all of Egypt and the surrounding nations because of Joseph's incredible insight, starting with those visions he had when he was 17, that he would one day be somebody great. And did it happen? It did. So I hope you will enjoy this new book, Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, Insights. And I think you will find a lot of insight in it. Not so much thanks to me, but thanks to the patriarchs themselves. I'm just floored by how honest they were. How honest they were about their lives, and how they instruct others how you should live your life. And this to me is a breath of fresh air, because in modern times people don't behave this way. They don't behave completely honest and open. And that's why I found it very refreshing indeed. I would just say to the women who read my books, don't be offended by the first patriarch Reuben and the way he talks about women. He went through some pretty rough things himself, but in general, I think you'll enjoy the book very much. Don't be put off by a few things that Reuben says. But apart from Reuben, all the others, they give a great testimony. Now, Reuben does in many places too. He's just on the thing of women, he's a bit off the track, in my opinion. But of course, 3,700 years ago, the rules concerning women were very different than they are today. So just take it with a pinch of salt. Anything you find a bit offensive, say, with the testament of the first patriarch. And when you get down to Joseph, it's going to blow you away. It's going to totally blow you away what he had to put up with, the things he went through to make him the gold that he ended up being, the temptations he went through. We know that Potiphar's wife was after Joseph when he was only like 17, 18 years old, but we have no idea the scale of what that woman did and went through. She put spells on the poor kid and all kinds of stuff, trying to get him in bed with her. I mean, it's gross, it's disgusting. But that's what that woman did. And he describes her very clearly when you get to the testament of Joseph himself. Anyway, that's just a taste of the book, of the front cover, and a few things that go on. And the book is centered around Joseph in many ways, as all his brethren looked up to him and they admired him, and especially admired the fact he could forgive them. He could have had them all killed when he went down to Egypt, being next to Pharaoh, and eventually Pharaoh himself. But he didn't. He had compassion. He did test them severely, to see if they were still the same as they used to be, or they changed, as you know. But wow, you'll get a much better grip on all the details if you read my book, The Testament of the 12 Patriarchs Insights, and along with that, Jasher Insights, one of my other books. Well, that's just a little bit about my latest book. I will, as it gets published, talk a lot more about it. This is just a preview of my latest book, which should come out, I would imagine, in about a month's time. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week. Bye for now.